Today we're taking a look at the DJI Avata. My buddy Mark is here with his DJI Avata on the controls right now. And we're taking this thing for a spin, seeing how the video footage looks. Also testing out some ND filters and gonna bring up the DJI Mini 3 Pro just for a little image comparison, so stay tuned.
Goggies, V2s, nice and small. I'm not a so I fly in manual. Thank you. And then of course we got our adorable little Avata.
That thing is small. It's definitely bigger than I thought it was going to be, though.
Yeah, it's bigger than you would think, but when you compare it to like a lot of the other like home-built FPV drones, when you kind of put everything together, it's about the same. And what I noticed is like, you got to put a GoPro on top of the other ones too. With this, you don't really have to. If you want better quality, like 10-bit quality from like the 11, then you could throw a GoPro on here, but this is plenty, at least for everything I do. So these are the Freewells, baby.
I was really interested to see the image quality out of the Avata, especially using some of the PL and ND filters that Freewell provided, so thank you to Freewell for that. Part of the reason is also because a lot of my friends in the filmmaking world have been picking up these DJI Avatas to bring on set with them for small indie films, and also to bring for wedding filmmaking gigs. After seeing like the 10th person I know grab an Avata, I decided to see for myself what this whole craze is about. Overall, I do really like the DJI Avata. However, I think it absolutely has its use cases, and I think a lot of the people who are buying the Avata are going to be in for a little bit of a trip once they start using it. So number one, obviously you saw the image quality between the Avata and the Mini 3 Pro. The Mini 3 Pro is just a lot sharper. I think the image is a lot better, but it also is a 4K 10-bit camera with a bigger sensor and a 1.7 aperture. That being said, I really did like the image quality on the Avata, mostly with using the PL filter. So when it comes to filmmaking purposes, I think it can open up a few avenues. Number one, I think if you're a content creator and you are putting stuff just on the web, I think the DJI Avata, the image quality you'll get out of it is pretty decent and definitely good enough to use in a lot of web-based productions. When it comes to higher budget production, wedding videos or small indie films, and I see people picking up the Avata, I think they're not going to be as useful, at least with the Avata by itself, for those productions. On top of that, the Avata is just crazy loud, especially compared to the DJI Mini 3 Pro. And I think there's a lot of people, especially in the wedding space, that have picked up the Avata because of how small it is, not realizing how loud this machine is. And I think in a lot of those wedding specifically situations, the Mini 3 Pro is probably the better option. Not just because of image quality, but also because of just the noise the drone makes itself. It's a lot less intrusive. Now, as you saw the DJI Avata footage, adding an ND filter I don't think made the image quality that much better. So you may ask yourself, why would I even use an ND filter? And I think anyone using an ND filter with the DJI Avata will really only use it if they're trying to mix the footage with ground camera footage. Footage that people are using the 180-degree rule, so you're trying to get your motion blur on the Avata to match the kind of motion blur you're getting on the normal footage. That being said, I think the polarizer filter from Freewell is probably the one I would leave on the Avata all the time, especially if you're filming over water or by buildings, or if you're shooting on a nice sunny day and you want to get the most color out of your sky or sunset. The reason I would just leave the PL filter on is when Mark and I were putting the filters on the Avata, it seems that DJI made this drone a little bit harder to put filters on than something like a Mini 3 Pro that has the notches built in. So on the Mini 3 Pro, I could change filters all day, not an issue. With the Avata, it definitely takes a little bit longer. And so if I were thinking about how I would use the Avata, I would just leave the PL on most of the time. And that polarizer filter will not only work to protect the lens, but you'll also get the benefits of using a polarizer filter. Now, other reasons I would probably pick the Mini 3 Pro over the Avata is the field of view you get on the Avata versus the Mini 3 Pro. The Mini 3 Pro is definitely more telephoto, and you can see that when you're looking at downtown Fort Lauderdale in the footage. You can almost get all of downtown Fort Lauderdale in the Mini 3 Pro footage, but it doesn't all quite fit, whereas you see all of downtown Fort Lauderdale in the footage from the Avata. It's just extremely wide angle. And at that point, it's also a little distorted. Now, for FPV flying, I think it's great, but for cinema or things that you want your lines to be as non-distorted as possible, you just want your footage to be as non-distorted as possible, that's where the Mini 3 is going to come into play. Now, it's very obvious that filmmakers are picking up the DJI Avata to get that new kind of footage in their films. The types of shots that we've been very fortunate enough to get with a lot of the FPV racers putting red Komodos on their drones, where now I think a lot of people were wondering if they could pick up something like a DJI Avata that's around $1,000, give or take, and use that and get a lower budget version of what people are doing with the red. And I think the answer is kind of not really, unless you do add-ons. But if you're just trying to film for fun, for web content, it absolutely is useful. If you're dead set on getting the Avata and you're trying to get the highest image quality as possible, I think people are still going to have to use GoPros with this FPV drone. But the benefit to using the Avata is that you have a much higher quality recording from the camera of the Avata itself, in addition to the GoPro footage that you may put on. And now that we have the GoPro 11 that shoots over 5K in 10-bit, we also have the DJI Action 3 that shoots 4K in 10-bit. We can use these cameras with the Avata, albeit probably a more limited flying experience, and get much higher end footage. If GoPro ever makes an 11 bones version, I'd be very interested to see how that works with the Avata, just due to how much lighter it is than the normal GoPro 10 and even the GoPro 11. One thing to note when using multiple DJI drones together, when Mark was flying his Avata, I actually powered up the controller on my Mini 3 Pro, and when I did that, Mark actually had an interruption into his live video feed. So it seems like it may not be the best. I know it may be common knowledge, but may not be the best to film both drones at the same time. So if someone's in the middle of doing their FPV flight, make sure not to turn on your controller. So this overall was my first impressions using the DJI Avata. In the end, it's definitely not necessarily a drone for me, but I think if anyone is interested in getting into FPV, or you want to add that kind of footage into your videos, the Avata will absolutely let you achieve that, and it's a lot more user-friendly than FPV drones have been in the past. So if you have any questions on the Avata, make sure to ask in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Until next time, my name's Geoff Fagien. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.